The best thing about having to go to my wife's office party was that I got a chance to drive my Challenger well. The worst part was that the faster I went, the faster I would get there. The meeting was held in a cabin in the woods, and there was a good 20-mile stretch of road leading to it. No stop signs, no traffic lights, no traffic. Just an open road waiting for the Dodge to do its thing. It also meant the absence of gas stations and jiffy shops. Donna and I have been estranged from each other since our daughters got married. I had hoped for the opposite, but it was not to be. Donna insisted that I accompany her to this ceremony, even though I made it clear that I didn't want to go. She used to walk alone. Donna liked to drink, but I didn't. Sometimes I drank beer. She was also a social butterfly, and I was not. For the last year, I suspected that she was having an affair. By this time, I didn't care anymore. I think that was one of the reasons why we were moving away from each other. I was waiting, just looking for a way out of an unpleasant relationship. I needed a way to end this case. I have to admit that it was probably because of me that my wife decided to look for juicier pastures. I am, so to speak, a strange type of minimalist. I grew up in a very poor family. My brothers and I had much less than most kids our age, by which I mean things like bicycles, toys, pets, fancy electronic gadgets, and the like. It was almost like being an Amish without religion. I wasn't a fool, and I fully understood how the normal world worked, but I couldn't bring myself to accept it. I knew it was important to stay out of debt. It was important to pay the bills, and it was prudent to save something for retirement. To live a comfortable, minimalist life, you don't have to be a fanatic, but you have to keep yourself in control. By allowing yourself a few indulgences, you can seem normal to most people. My biggest weakness was marriage and family. It was really hard for me to find a woman who I felt could tolerate my eccentricities and who could accept my uniqueness. Donna was from the same background as me and used to lead a modest lifestyle. She didn't take it the way I did, but she could tolerate it. The longer we were married, the more she seemed to get back to normal. She's become less frugal. I didn't like it, but I understood, especially after the girls were born. In order not to seem strange, we bought a small practical house and began to wear better clothes. Donna did her hair from time to time and became quite adept at grooming and makeup. We have two smartphones of last year's models. When the girls grew up, Donna started working. It was an office job with a minimum wage. Transportation was necessary, so we bought her a small Honda Civic, just like mine. Her salary almost completely covered the cost of a car, lunches, and a new wardrobe. My name is William Smith. It's the most common name a person can get. I work for a local company that manufactures industrial compressors. The work is very monotonous, but I like it. I was satisfied with both the position and the salary. Sometimes I was offered a promotion, but I refused. I didn't tell Donna anything. I hid my second slip from my wife. I felt it was prudent to save money for retirement. At every opportunity, I bought gold, 1 ounce of Cru Durant. I had more than 30 in my basement safe, and I was just getting started. And finally, I allowed myself a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Donna did a good job at Gilbert Industrial. She regularly received bonuses and promotions. During the first year, she talked quite a lot about her work, but then it started to fade away. Now she rarely mentions her job or the people she works with at all. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I was hoping to get a better idea of the situation tonight. The party was something of a party. It was a weekend event. I felt uncomfortable even going there. I've dated all of her companions at one time or another, and I didn't like any of them. She pulled off the highway at Holbrook, and I was finally able to let the Challenger accelerate. Donna was uncomfortable with the speed, but she held her tongue. Yes, I was speeding, but I didn't care. Bill, why the rush? We have enough time to get there. Why don't you slow down a bit? I'm not eager to get there. You know perfectly well that I didn't want to go at all. I'm just using this time to clean the engine. The car needs to run from time to time. Please try not to spoil my mood. This weekend is important for my career. Why? What are you talking about? Why is it so important for me to attend this corporate event? I don't understand. Bill, you need to fully understand my new position in the company so that you can give me the attention and support I need to do my job. I still don't understand. I'm sure Mrs. Simpson will be able to explain everything to you when we get there. Marge Simpson was the wife of company president Glenn Robertson Simpson. It was old money and old business. I've always supported you in the past. What has changed? There are many unique responsibilities in my new position. Marge said that you should gradually get to know them in order to fully understand them. It may be difficult to understand at first, but she assured me that you will come to an understanding. By the time we got to the cabin, my adrenaline was pumping. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what Donna was trying to say. The weekend promises to be interesting. When we arrived, Donna entered the cabin, leaving me to carry the bags. I felt like I was being put in my place. Hey, it was Toby Wallace, the only decent employee in their office. Hi, Toby. How are you? Toby introduced me to his wife, Bonnie. They were sitting on the front porch, but it seemed like everyone else was inside. I looked around the parking lot and estimated that there were about 16 cars and one battered old truck at the end of the parking lot. We spent the next 5 minutes talking about the Challenger. What are you doing outside? Why aren't you and Bonnie inside with the others? That's not our type of person, Mr. Smith. We were hoping to leave early, but Mrs. Simpson insists that we stay. We came early today to help arrange everything. All the suppliers left about an hour ago. You'll have to explain yourself. What's happening? Something fishy, but I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to upset you, but I think it has something to do with your wife. Are you staying the whole weekend? No. That's why I parked my truck on the side of the road, so I won't have to worry when. We're about to leave. It was getting more interesting by the minute. Okay, I'd better take it all to our room. Let me know before you leave. Okay, of course. Mr. Smith, be careful. Don't do anything stupid. Fortunately, they were only 2 small bags. When I entered the cabin, Mrs. Simpson caught my eye, smiled, and waved. Donna was waiting for me at the top of the stairs and looked a little annoyed that it took me so long to get in. It's about time, Bill. We have a few hours to prepare for the evening. Get yourself cleaned up and put on something presentable. It's going to be a special night, and I want everything to be perfect. If you don't mind, I'll take a little walk around the house to calm down. I'll be back soon. I noticed that I grinned as I left the room. There was a slight chill, which made my walk a little more pleasant. According to my calculations, there really were 16 cars. They were mostly Mercedes, a few Jaguars, and a Lexus. 4 of the cars had out-of-state license plates. I was a little confused trying to figure out how a woman in my wife's position could match people of that caliber. Or rather, we were definitely beyond the level of these people. Something was wrong. I noticed Toby and Bonnie loading their bags into the truck. I waved and came over to chat. I see Mrs. Simpson has decided to let you go. Not really. We're kind of slipping away. I'm not comfortable here, Mr. Smith. Toby thought maybe we should stay, but I talked him out of it. Bonnie hastened to add, could you do me a small favor and stay here until the evening buffet is over? I'm a little worried too, and I'd really appreciate it. I have no idea what's going on, but I don't like it. Great minds think alike. Isn't that right, Bonnie? We blushed slightly at my pathetic joking attempt. I think we can. At this stage, there will be crabs and oysters. Toby, I think I'll like it. I dressed as my wife insisted. Before we reached the buffet, the hostess took my arm and led me into a quiet alcove. We are so glad that you decided to come tonight to support Donna. This is a big step in her career, and it is very important that she has your full support. The increase in wages and benefits is very significant, and I am sure that you will be pleased with it. Excuse me for asking, but what position are we talking about? Donna was a little evasive. When I ask her about it, she usually just shrugs it off and tells me to wait until the evening. It's okay, William. I think she just wants to surprise you. You haven't answered my question. There is no official name. I think you can just say that she is a personal assistant. I understand. Well, the buffet looks good. Thanks for the explanation, Mrs. Simpson. March, please call me March. I spent the next hour or so trying everything on the line. Donna was busy talking to important people, so Toby, Bonnie, and I were able to spend a little more time together. We were just packing up when Mrs. Simpson came in. William, Donna said that you arrived in your sports car tonight. I was wondering if you could give us a little run with a drink. I smiled and nodded. There are 3 cases of wine in the ABC store in Holbrook. They've already been paid for, so all you have to do is come and pick them up. There shouldn't be any problems. But if there are, just call me. Be sure to bring your phone with you. I'd be glad to, March. I'll let Donna know and I'll go. When she left, I looked at Toby. I'll meet you outside in 5 minutes. Donna just smiled when I told her that Mrs. Simpson had asked me to help. Her only comment was, don't forget your phone. It's interesting that they both focused on the same thing. Toby, I need a favor. He smiled when I tossed him the keys to the Challenger. Are you serious? Go to Holbrook and buy 3 cases of wine at the ABC store for Mrs. Simpson. I have a feeling that there may be some kind of problem that will lead to a delay. If you know what I mean. Toby smiled and nodded. Here's my phone. Just put it on the dashboard. If he calls, don't answer. Whatever you do, don't turn it off. Any questions? How long do you want us to stay away? At least 2 hours, and top up the gas before you head back. Enjoy it. It was a little chilly outside, but I had the foresight to put on a comfortable jacket. Now I could only wait and watch. From various places on the back porch, you could see most of the interior of the house. A thermos of coffee would be very useful, but I didn't plan this in advance. I found a convenient place from where I could look inside and not be noticed. Donna was the center of attention. She was smiling, laughing, and embarrassed, like a movie star. About 20 minutes later, Mrs. Simpson and Donna looked closely at Donna's cell phone. I knew exactly what they were doing. Checking my location. Well, thanks to Toby, I'm almost at Holbrook. They both smiled as Mrs. Simpson raised her hand and began to speak. Unfortunately, I couldn't make out what was being said, but everyone in the room seemed to quietly approve of what they were hearing. It was like a little applause. Glenn Robertson Simpson came over and took Donna's hand. They started up the main staircase and stopped. He raised his hands and hers in the air, as if in a victory salute, and they both laughed. As they went up the stairs, I could hear cheers in the room. There was about an hour and a half left before the Challenger returned. I decided to take my time and enjoy life. I always had with me my trusty pocket knife of good steel with a sharp blade. I looked around and decided that I would start with the cars closest to the house. I took my time. There was no hurry. I carefully put each valve stem in my jacket pocket. I didn't want to lose anything, and I didn't want to clog up the driveway to the Simpsons' house. 16 machines and 64 valve rods. I had almost an hour left. What should I do? What should I do? 4 cars were locked. All the others were open. So I started again with the ones closest to the cabin and took off the registration sheets. Some were wearing visors, but most were in glove boxes. I had no idea what I was going to do with them, but I thought they might be useful in the future. There were still 30 minutes left before Toby returned. I decided that it was necessary to remove the valve rods on the spare parts. Since I had access to the cars, I also had access to the trunks. 20 minutes later, I had 10 more valves. 2 cars didn't have spare tires. I know it was petty and childish, but it gave me a little bit of light satisfaction. I'm not a big fan of confrontation, so everything I did or intended to do was low and mean. I had no problems with self-esteem, so I didn't feel the need to look courageous or heroic. I'm gonna let all the alpha males take over this role. 20 minutes later, the Challenger returned. Toby and Bonnie seemed to be enjoying the ride. He confirmed that there was indeed a delay at the ABC store, as I expected, and it looked like it was pre-planned. No one called my cell phone while they were gone. I turned it off and took out the SIM card. They couldn't wait to get home. I think Toby wished him a safe journey and strongly recommended that he find another job as soon as possible. I'm sure the wine cases were quite expensive. This problem was easy to solve. I put all 3 boxes on the porch of the lodge. I didn't want to be accused of theft in any way. The trip home was relaxing. There wasn't much in the house that was important to me. A few personal papers, a laptop, and Krug errands. At first, I was going to set fire to the house before I left, but that would make Donna a martyr. I didn't want to do that. 2 hours later, I was on my way. I didn't feel the need to leave a traditional note or an engagement ring. Let her figure it out for herself. I was in no hurry and had no purpose in mind. I drove for 2 days. On Monday morning, I called work and warned them. I asked for my last check to be sent to my parents in Carlisle. They were unhappy that I left without warning. I apologized, but I didn't explain anything. You can always count on a good breakfast at the Waffle House. On the way, I bought a local merchandiser newspaper and found an interesting advertisement, saying that help was needed for a local supermarket. They were looking for a man to load the shelves between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. After breakfast, I checked the market. It was in an eclectic old neighborhood of Chattanooga. I spent the next hour driving around the neighborhood. There were many old craftsman cottages and several mobile homes in the immediate vicinity. I could have been happy in a small trailer, but I was hoping for a step forward. Then I accidentally came across a sign offering to rent an apartment in the garage. I hadn't asked about the job yet, but I didn't want to lose the apartment in the garage. The garage was not included in the price, but when I offered $50 more per month, they agreed. It was a small one-bedroom apartment with no shower. It was poorly furnished, a bed, a chest of drawers, a table and chairs. The rent was normal and the place was suitable, so I took it. I'll solve the bathroom problem later. At least I had a garage for the Challenger. The situation in the supermarket was somewhat different. They had a lot of applicants, but not so many that they felt comfortable leaving them alone in the store overnight. I explained my position to the owner and did not spare words. What finally secured this job for me was that I offered to work black time, without any benefits and for $1 less than they wanted to pay. They didn't even ask for my social security number. I was happy, and they were happy. It was a 10-minute walk from the apartment. I spent the rest of the day settling into my new home. The landlord gave me the access code to his internet, which was nice. After a short trip to the local Goodwill, I had some cooking utensils and a small microwave. Oven. I also have bed linen and cleaning supplies. That evening, I canceled my insurance policies. I decided not to mess with bank or credit cards. Who knows what they can do to harm? Both of our daughters were married. It made my departure a little easier. There are no grandchildren yet, but I'm sure it won't take too long. I called my daughter Laura and told her that I was fine. I asked her to be ready to help her mother if necessary. Laura knew I was gone, but Donna didn't give her any other information. She promised to break the news to her sister Linda. I deleted all calls from my wife and turned off the phone again. I needed to take a shower. Maybe tomorrow. Not everything was perfect. I needed to find a safe place for my gold. I know that what I had was not considered essential, but it was important to me. For some strange reason, I got a safe in Huntsville, Alabama. I was hoping they wouldn't connect him to me in Chattanooga. Of course, I was completely wrong, but I wanted to at least try. It was almost 2 hours to drive, but I decided so. The garage door in the apartment was pretty secure, but I installed a new deadbolt and heavy-duty lock just to make sure. I have to be protected. It didn't take me long to get used to my new job. A man worked with me for the first 3 nights, and then they left me alone. After the first 2 weeks, I had everything under control. For $20 a month, I got a subscription to the Planet Fitness Club, which solved my problem with the shower. I started work at 10 in the evening and finished at 6. Then there was a 20-minute jog or a 30-minute walk to the Planet. Initially, I only used the shower, but gradually started using some exercise equipment. By the end of the first month, I was working out in the gym for almost 2 hours every day. I felt better and lost some weight. I never considered myself heavy, but I was a little flabby. I was happy with my new job. It was monotonous, but at the same time it was different. It's hard to explain, but I'm sure you'll understand what I mean. I did my job and I was left alone. The gym was also a good choice. I decided which exercises I liked and which ones I should avoid. I didn't have a TV, but I did have a used desktop computer with a good monitor. I didn't cook much, but I found that my eating habits had changed a bit. Although this was not my intention, I found myself drifting towards a keto diet. After 3 months, I felt better and lost weight. It's time to get in touch with the daughters again. This time I called Linda. Hello. Linda, this is your father. Well, it's about time. We were all worried about you. Are you okay? Yes, everything is fine. Don't worry about me. I've always been able to take care of myself. I'm just calling to make sure your mom is okay. Mom's doing great. It looks like she got a promotion at work and loves her job. She is, however, very angry with you. She said that you dumped her at a promotion celebration and then left home like a resentful little boy. These are the words she used. She said you were jealous of her success. I'm sorry, but I can't add anything to that. Until she's ready to tell you the truth, that's all I have. She said that things are going badly without your income, but she's coping with her raise. Well, I'm glad for her. Has she told you anything about her new job? Only that she earns more money and travels a lot. I didn't answer. After a short pause, Linda asked, Are you coming home for Christmas? I don't think so. I'll try to send something for you and Laura. We don't need anything, Dad. We'd rather you were here. I'm sorry, and now I have to go. Give Laura my regards. While I felt a little depressed, I had a feeling that my daughters did not understand the situation and considered me the cause of all the problems. I wasn't happy about it, but I didn't feel obligated to explain myself. It was obvious that there was no remorse on my wife's part. I felt a little bitter. From what my daughter said, Donna was doing fine without me. I didn't understand why she wanted me to be at home. I spent the weekend feeling depressed. My beer consumption was growing. As the weeks went by, I found that things were going well. I did a good job and got a promotion I didn't expect. They gave me complete freedom of action as far as my duties were concerned, and in a very short time I streamlined and improved the replenishment system. The store's general computer system was already doing this, but they seemed to appreciate the manual input. My living conditions were ideal for my situation and well within my budget. My weight dropped and I started to build muscle. With the right lighting, I began to look skeptically at the six-pack. I stopped shaving, and now I had a full head of hair long enough to make a small ponytail. My whole image seemed to have changed, and I seemed a little scary. My gym workouts were getting easier and a little longer. An unexpected side effect was that I also made some friends at the gym. They weren't really friends, but rather acquaintances. I was very careful with women because I didn't want any problems. It didn't matter with the guys. In fact, we regularly made fun of each other. However, one very unusual alliance has emerged. Her name was Harry, or at least that's what everyone called her. She was not very friendly and rarely talked to anyone. I turned out to be an exception. She came there every morning and worked for at least 2 hours. It was an intense workout, not fancy yoga. I assume she was about 45. She looked sturdy and always wore sweatpants and a hoodie. All the other women showed off their bodies in tight latex and skimpy outfits. Not Harry. I was the only male in the whole cage that she talked to or even looked at. I didn't encourage her, but I didn't send her away either. To be honest, I was a little flattered. Several months have passed, and I have not contacted either my daughters or my wife. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I went to Huntsville several times to add to my Krugerrand collection. Then everything started to change. William, can I talk to you for a minute? This was not the usual beginning of a conversation with Harry. She called me William when all the guys called me Bill. Come to think of it, She had never called me by my first name before. Of course, no problem. Is there anything I can do to help? As a matter of fact, it is. We sat down on a bench and made ourselves comfortable. I have a corporate meeting that I have to attend on Friday evening, and I need an escort. I'll take care of all the expenses, and I just need you to come with me. I noticed that you don't drive a car, so I'll also provide transportation. If necessary, I can reimburse the costs. I hesitated, and she quickly picked it up. I'm really sorry. Did I do or say something wrong? No, not at all. I just have a few skeletons in my closet, so to speak. If you can get around them, I'll be happy to help. Okay, what are the problems? First of all, I'm married. Oh shit, you never mentioned your wife. I think it's weird. No, not at all. I just wanted you to know in advance. I haven't seen or spoken to my wife in over 9 months. I don't even know if I'm still married. Have you filed for separation or divorce? No. What else? Do you have anything suitable? No suit. No jacket. No shirt. No ordinary shoes. I don't need all this, so I don't have it. No problem. I can take care of it. That's why I'm asking for a week. I do work at night, but I think I can get a free evening without any problems. I am glad that you will solve this problem. She smiled when she said that. And what else? Do you want me to shave? William, I like your beard and hair, but to be honest, you're a little sloppy. Would you mind if my stylist examined you on Friday afternoon? A stylist? She smiled, and I groaned and nodded that everything was fine. That's how my relationship with Harry, professionally known as Harriet Parker, a lawyer, began. On Tuesday, I ended up at Jossabank's. Not an over-the-top establishment, but a step above anything I've ever been to. Harriet arranged for my visit in advance. As a result, I received 2 pairs of trousers and 2 sports jackets, a pair of shirts, and several ties. I strained a little, adding 2 turtleneck shirts to the pile. I've always liked them, and I thought they would look good with sports coats. Harry has already paid for everything. On the way home, I picked up a new pair of decent shoes and some underwear. I needed new underwear because of my recent weight loss. The shoes were moccasin style, but still cool. On Friday, my visit to the stylist went well. The guy who took care of me was easy to get along with, and he did a good job. He left me with a short, neatly trimmed beard and turned my ponytail into something like a short, modified mullet. I do not know the real term, but it was long in the back. He assured me that it would be much easier to maintain. I liked. He didn't talk much about Harry, but he said I was lucky. Harry arrived at the apartment at 6 o'clock sharp. He didn't get out of the car, but she gave a short squeak. The Lexus looked out of place in my neighborhood. I put on a gray jacket and a gray turtleneck. I thought I looked pretty good, but I don't have a point of reference. I was grateful to her for driving the car because I didn't know the way in the city. Harry, before we go in, could you explain exactly what I should or shouldn't do tonight? The first hour or so will probably be communication. You don't have to bother. Most of the people here are going to be big, sensual snobs that you don't want to have anything to do with. Avoid them if you can. Most importantly, I want you to stay close to me and keep the snobs away. Try not to get in your eyes, but don't let anyone push you. Make sure I always have a drink in my hand, ginger ale or mineral water. Be friendly and pleasant, and don't lose your cool. Let them think we're a couple. I've never considered myself that kind of guy. I don't have much experience in this kind of thing. Can you handle it? Of course. Will they be fed there? In about an hour, each of us will receive a plate of $500 rubber chicken and listen to several speeches. When it's over, they'll give you something else. By the way, you look good. It was at that moment that I realized I hadn't complimented her on her dress or hairstyle. I was really out of my element. The first part of the evening went exactly as she explained. I found that my role was easier than I expected. The room was full of single men, all in expensive suits and with big watches. Harry looked really good, and most of them knew she wasn't married. Quite a few of them took the time to come in and have a little chat with her. They were testing the water, so to speak. I found myself giving them sidelong glances, like Charles Bronson. Surprisingly, it worked. Every time I left her side to refresh her drink, another vulture swooped in. Some of them brought her drinks, which she calmly passed to me for me to order. Harry looked at me a couple of times and kind of smiled. Finally, we sat down. 300 chicken dinners appeared out of nowhere. It was a pathetic plate. I'm not what you'd call a fussy eater, but this was something else entirely. I kept thinking about the $500. Harry leaned towards me. "William, do you want to leave this place?" I didn't answer her. I just got up, took her hand, and we quietly left. I don't think anyone even noticed. When we entered the garage, she kicked off her shoes and tossed me the keys to the Lexus. "Find us some real food, William." 20 minutes later, we were at Hillbilly Willie's. Each of us had a full plate and a glass of beer. While we were eating, I noticed one unusual thing. Her evening dress had long sleeves. Most of the women's dresses had short sleeves or no sleeves at all. Besides, she was barefoot, and it didn't seem to bother her at all. Everything quickly returned to normal. My evening with Harry was pleasant, although it did not end in any intimacy. We continued our normal relationship at the gym. 3 weeks later, Harry had another appointment that required an escort. Of course, I agreed. I felt obligated to explain the situation to my boss, and he found it quite funny. Under the circumstances, he told me that there would be no need to ask for leave, just to leave him a note. He more or less told me that I was responsible for my own time, and she treated accordingly. Harry's daily workouts at the gym were pretty hard. Her heart was beating faster, and she was sweating a little. She was always fully dressed. Most of the females in the gym wore sports bras and shorts. Harry wore hoodies and long trousers. It didn't make any sense, but I wasn't going to bring it up. Our second night was similar to the first, except there was no food. And there was more booze. More booze meant more lizards scurrying around. Every other guy who approached her brought a fresh drink. I spent most of the evening collecting and disposing of unwanted glasses. One of the most obnoxious guys finally got to me. I took him aside and quietly told him that if he bothered my fiancée again, I would clean his face. He disappeared for the rest of the evening, like many other scum. I had no idea that I had become so formidable. After the meeting, we went to get sushi, but ended up eating $40 worth of sashimi. It was another fun, platonic evening. 2 days later, Harry caught me off guard while I was rowing. "Why didn't you tell me we were engaged?" I was a little embarrassed when one of my colleagues asked me about it. She did not wait for an answer, but smiled. I called Laura. She said Donna was avoiding her in Linda. All Laura knew was that Donna traveled a lot and that people regularly stayed at the house. I asked her if her mother had filed for divorce, but she had no idea. It's been a few weeks since he and Linda talked to Donna. For some reason, I got angry. The more bottles I emptied, the worse it got. The next morning, I sent 74 valve rods to Glenn Simpson at Gilbert Industries. I included a short note. "Thanks for a fun evening. It's been over a year since that party, but I was sure he remembered it." I skipped the gym that day. I didn't want to train with a hangover. The next day, I received a suggestion from Harry. I promised to explain everything to her the next time we had dinner together. She picked me up at 6 in the evening. Harry took me to Chris' Steakhouse. It was my first time in such a place. She listened in silence and made no judgments. I returned to my apartment just in time for the start of the work shift. The next day at the gym, Harry asked me another question. Do I know anyone who was in the hut that night? When I told her that I had the names and addresses of everyone who was there, her eyes lit up. After our workout, she came to my house, and I gave her an envelope with 12 car registration sheets. She grabbed them and kissed me on the cheek. There are many types of lawyers. Harry was a personal injury lawyer. She tried to explain it to me, but I just smiled and asked what it would cost me. All I got in return was another kiss on the cheek. 3 days later, my daughter Linda called me. Donna called her to see if she knew where I was. There was some kind of problem at Donna's workplace, and she found herself in the middle of it. She was unhappy and wanted to talk to me immediately. Linda refused to tell her anything. I wonder if Glenn got those valve rods. I called Harry and said I'd pick her up in 20 minutes. Her office was located in a prestigious shopping mall. It was cute, but not too flashy. Harry has never seen a Challenger. The sound of the engine drew a few curious onlookers from her office as she walked out. To the car. I walked around the car to open the door for her and smiled at all the onlookers. Harry was laughing as she got into the car. William played well. Well played. I suppose you'll want an engagement ring now. In due time, do not rush. I kept the Challenger under control until we crossed the Tennessee River. Then I started to accelerate a bit. Highway 72 leading to Huntsville is a good stretch of road, but not the best place to show off. 2 hours later, we were sitting in the Dreamland. William, all the people who were in the hut that evening were served today. What do you mean, serviced? This is a trial. The actual term is malicious behavior contributing to the deterioration of a marriage. Does such a thing really exist? It seems that all the necessary categories have been fulfilled. Their behavior was deliberate. It was extreme, and it caused you severe emotional distress. That must be why my wife was upset. What does it mean that your wife was upset? My daughter Linda called me today and said that Donna needed to talk to me. There was a big problem at work, and she was somehow involved in it. I don't know anything else. Glenn Simpson and Gilbert Industries are being sued for $1 million. The remaining 11 have claims of $100,000 each. I'm not trying to be a smart ass or anything, but do you really think this is going to work? Of course. Maybe it's not as easy as it seems, but I think a few interesting things could happen. When we left the restaurant, I was a little nervous, so I casually asked Harry if she wanted to rent her room and come back in the morning. I wish I could, but I can't. If you want, we can leave early. That's not the point. Let's just leave. I'll explain everything to you on the way home. The car was quiet for the first 20 minutes, and then it started to open. It seems that 8 years ago, Harry weighed almost 300 pounds. She decided to go on a diet and exercise instead of having a bypass surgery. She lost 140 pounds. Unfortunately, she suffered from 20 pounds of flabby skin. It took 5 surgeries to remove the excess flesh, and now she has scars all over her body. Harry is a brave, outspoken woman, but she admitted that she is very shy about her scars. She avoided dating and any contact with male friends. For some reason, she felt comfortable with me, but she didn't know why. I dropped her off at the house, walked her to the door, and kissed her lightly on the cheek. She thanked me for the food, and when I left, there was a small tear in her eyes. We continued our platonic twists. We both seemed happy about it. Nick Jack Market seemed to be popular with the locals. In less than 2 years, they had added 2 more stores and were not going to stop. The owners were serious when they offered me a full-time job as a stock manager for all 3 units. However, they insisted that I become a permanent employee, which meant that I had to be fully legalized. It didn't matter at the moment, so I agreed. Harry was happy, and so was I. A few more weeks have passed. I didn't hear from my daughters for a long time, and then I received a short message. Mom was fired. It made things a little more complicated. Now I had a steady job with a decent salary, and Donna was no longer working. At that moment, I was afraid that I would end up being punished in the divorce. William, I have some good news for a change. Harry was serious, and I was all ears. 3 of the 11 people we sued settled the case. What does this mean, since we filed a lawsuit for only $100,000? The insurance companies advised them to just pay and avoid a public trial. It was covered by their insurance, so it wasn't a big loss for them. You mean we can get some money? William, I've already received 3 checks. Perhaps there will be even more of them. Do you think this has something to do with Donna's dismissal? Yes, of course. Will it ruin my divorce? Have you already submitted the documents? No, not yet. I was going to ask you to help me with this. Harry smiled. William, pack a small bag and get the Challenger ready. We're going to go visit your wife. We'll leave early Thursday morning. I was smiling now. We left at 6 in the morning and checked into the Sheraton Hotel 10 hours later. I called Linda and asked her to invite Donna and Laura to lunch at the reading. Motor in the next day. The conversation at dinner was somewhat awkward. Our conversation was varied and confusing. Why? We were both careful to avoid the elephant in the room. We spent our first night together. For more than a year, we were friends without any benefits. The last thing I wanted was for her to feel uncomfortable. Although I won't go into the details of the evening, I will say that it was far from as traumatic as we expected. We both got a little rusty, but we managed to get through it with good results. She seemed relieved that I wasn't disgusted, and I was happy that it wasn't as bad as she made me think. We were a couple of lucky fools. We had a brunch in the morning. Donna and the girls were already waiting for us at the table. I was wearing one of my new sports coats with a dark turtleneck. I looked good. Harry was wearing one of her light business suits. Something like a casual professional. My wife and daughters looked at me in amazement. Donna, Linda, Laura. This is Harriet Parker, my confidant and lawyer. Harriet, my wife Donna, and daughters Linda and Laura. It was awkward, but the best I could do before we could get into the meaningless chatter. The waiter appeared to take the order. I'm not hungry, if you don't mind. I'll just have a coffee. Donna broke the silence first. I quickly looked around the table and came to the same conclusion. Why don't you just bring us 5 cups of coffee and leave the pot on the table? The waiter nodded, and everyone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. It's good to see you again. Bill, could you tell us about what you've been doing for the last few years? Donna grinned slightly when she said that. I'm just working and giving you the freedom to find yourself. Or whatever you're doing. Harry kicked me lightly under the table. I needed you, and you left me. Maybe you needed someone, but not me. Mom, Dad, drop it. I'm sure you didn't arrange this meeting to sit and tease each other. Dad, why are we here? Linda was very persistent. I saw that it would be a very short meeting. I was at a loss. I looked at Harry, looking for some hint of how to move on. She ignored me, but took over the conversation. Harry reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She handed it across the table to Donna. Mrs. Smith, this is a divorce petition. I think you will find this very fair. I suggest that you take it to your lawyer and ask him to review it. Laura and Linda looked amazed. It was clear that they had not expected this. Donna, however, was smiling broadly. She didn't take the envelope from Harry, but reached into her purse and took out the same one. You're a dumb jerk. I divorced your week. Ass 8 months ago for desertion. You never got a copy because I didn't know where to send it. This is final. Anyway, you don't have anything that I would claim. Her smile turned into a wide grin. The waiter returned with our coffee and a full bowl for the table just as Donna stood up. She smiled at Harry and me and gave the girls a strange look before leaving. She left both envelopes on the table. Dad, can we stay for lunch? I heard they have a very good custard pie here. Laura asked. Harry and I laughed and asked the waiter to bring the menu. Harry, Laura, and Linda had a great lunch and talked. It seemed to me that I was eating alone. I've never understood women too well. The girls exchanged phones and promised to keep in touch. Back in the room, I started to pack my things. William, I thought we were going to stay one more night. Yes, but not here. Hurry up and get ready. An hour and 30 later, we were in Elkton, Maryland. 30 minutes later, Harriet Parker turned into Harry Smith. We spent the night in Laura, Virginia. We have a house with a garage for 3 cars. That's another story. The girls said that Donna had a seizure when she found out that I had received over $2 million from Gilbert Industries. Donna moved to Iowa. I don't know why.